Hello and welcome back to Friday Minis. So recently I was poking around in my Windows settings and I found this interesting line under the mouse settings. It says my laptop has a precision touchpad. Now that intrigued me a fair bit because what even is a precision touchpad? What exactly is it? So what does it mean? So well, I looked it up. As it turns out, there is a pretty interesting backstory behind the whole precision touchpad thing, but ironically, it has nothing to do with the actual precision of the touchpad. So yeah, programmers and names, huh? You see, the idea is this, right? If you cast your mind back far enough to the days where laptops were, a fairly new thing. Now, a laptop is designed in such a way where, well, you can fit a keyboard quite well, but a mouse is a harder thing to do, right? And at those early days of laptops, touchpads weren't standard. In fact, they didn't even really come into the picture until a while later. But regardless, the problem here is we need to, find some way to control the mouse cursor without straight up building a mouse into the laptop. If you remember, there were many different ways of doing this. There was that little nub that you can use to, like a joystick to move the mouse around. There were, of course, touchpads. Trackballs, I don't think were a thing with laptops, but that's one way to control the mouse as well. Of course, today we've got our touchpads, we've got touch screens. Again, touch screens weren't really a thing in that era, but you get the idea. There isn't one standard way of controlling the mouse on a laptop, and because of that, people came up with many different ways. So that's the hardware part settled, right? But we got to think about, the software part. How do we actually support these devices? Now, the straightforward way to do this, of course, is to program our operating systems, program our drivers to recognize all these different devices, right? So, your operating system will know whether you're using a little, track nub thing or whatever. But that would be difficult and time consuming. There will be a lot of duplication of work. You can imagine the driver manufacturers having to build one version of the driver for each operating system, for each version of the operating system. So yeah, it's a lot of work, right? Making drivers is no fun. So instead, the general rule of thumb is to go for the easier solution, to present itself, whatever it is, as simply a mouse. That's right, I don't care whether you're using a touchpad or a little touch nub thingy. At the end of the day, all the operating system sees is a mouse. What it receives are messages that look like they're from a mouse. The operating system decodes those and moves the cursor accordingly. So that's great, problem solved, right? Now you can use all those devices. And that's true. We've been doing things that way for many years and yeah, it's served us well. Now, fast forward back to the present. What's very common now are touchpads, nice large touchpads that are able to support special features like multi-touch. And that's great, right? You can even get into software on your computer to configure how that works. But now there is an interesting conundrum that we have to deal with. If touchpads worked the same way as they used to, what that means is that, the operating system doesn't understand that it's a touchpad. Doesn't understand that it's a touchpad capable of doing, all those cool things like multi-touch. Instead, what you have to do is to install a driver with, the appropriate software from the manufacturer. The touchpad sends proprietary signals to that software. The software needs to decode those signals, right, and then use whatever settings you have set up, and then separately control your computer. And that's not great, right? Problems with that include, say, different computers with touchpads from different manufacturers will behave differently. There is no one standardized way to configure your touchpad, and what that means is, different people, different experiences. Also, your operating system has zero control. So if you want to do something special that the operating system can do, but the driver doesn't support it, then you're out of luck because that's not something that's possible. So what then? What can we do to sort of bridge this gap? That, ladies and gentlemen, is how the whole precision touchpad thing comes back into play. The idea is pretty simple. Touchpads now have to report themselves as touchpads. This is easier to do now than it was back then because many drivers are now standardized. What that means is, as you would probably have realized, you can plug in any old mouse, any old keyboard, any old flash drive, Your computer doesn't need to do much work to be able to work with it. And that is mostly thanks to the fact that many drivers are now standardized. Different manufacturers have more or less come to an agreement, which is great. And the same more or less applies to touchpads as well. Now, touchpads will report any multi-touch activity exactly as it happened to the operating system. Do note, this is to the operating system and not a proprietary driver. What this means now is that all the settings that you can use to control your touchpad are now within the operating system itself. Of course, that means all the disadvantages we talked about will go away, right? You can now control it in a standardized manner, and of course it's able to respond to, well, whatever updates your operating system has, without having to wait for a third party to support that. So yeah, that's great. So yeah, that's a very long and rambly backstory for the word precision touchpad. That's what it means, that's what it's for. To check whether you have a precision touchpad, you can simply go into the mouse settings on, of course, a laptop with a touchpad, and yeah, Windows will tell you. To be honest, for us as end users, whether or not we have a precision touchpad doesn't really make too much of a difference in our day-to-day lives. However, if you're talking about settings, if you're trying to set things up across multiple computers, then having a precision touchpad is a plus, because then you'll be able to compare and match settings across multiple computers in a standardized and predictable way. At least if they're using the same version of Windows. That's all there is for this episode of Friday Minis. It's not mini at all because it's coming on 10 minutes. But yeah, hope you liked it. Hope you found that insightful. I'll see you next time. You're watching 0612 TV with NERDfirst.net. Thank you very much for watching. If you like my work and are feeling generous, you can shoot me a one-time donation on PayPal or sign up for a recurring one on Patreon. Of course, you can simply like, comment, and subscribe. You know the deal. For more videos, links to my channel and a related playlist are on screen. Thank you for your support.